Welcome to Slash Forward, also to the final box set film for the month. Honestly, I wasn't sure that I was going to make it, and I thank you for your support along the way. In this one, we're looking at The Mad Monster, an off-kilter werewolf story from 1942. If you follow me this far, all I can say is I love you, and I hope you subscribe to the channel. Let's get to it. We open on a young wolf singing her evening song in lament at the loss of her mate, who is busy in the process of making a contribution to the advancement of science. Dr. Cameron is collecting blood for recombobulation to be romantically inserted into his semi-willing test subject, Simple Petro. He doesn't fully understand what he's doing here, but he sure is happy to help out. He grows some bitchin' mutton chops, which satisfies Cameron that the experiment was a success, so he then takes a moment to give a mock speech to the hallucinated members of the science board. But this turns from a dream to a dark memory, as their indignant tongue clucking sends him into a vengeful mood, determining that Petro will become the implement of their destruction. As an added bonus, he presumes this will prove the efficacy of his serum for military use, and hopes to land a sweet defense contract after he's done with his multiple homicide. He transforms Petro back so he can confirm the side effects, which are mild headache, constipation, dick rot, and unimaginable waking nightmares of death and dismemberment. We then meet Lenora, Cameron's daughter, who longs for the days of living in the big city before her father was disgraced and ejected from his position. She tries to get the lowdown on the secret experiments from Petro, but despite utilizing all her feminine wiles, he keeps his lips sealed. At the next experiment, Cameron goes a step further, releasing Petro into the wilderness to follow his monsterly instincts. Nearby in the misty swamp, a family of bumpkins prepares to turn in for the night. Their daughter wants to stay up a little bit later to play with her ball, though. Get Animal Crossing, loser! As Grammy scares them with stories of creatures in the night, a living nightmare scenario unfolds as they find their daughter's ball at rest, and that she's been turned into a pile of red slop. He then returns and the doctor shows that he has some influence over the monster form, when in a state of exhaustion. News of the murder travels as far as the big city, where Lenora's boo Tom tries to work with Dr. Blaine on what kind of fantastic animal may have done it. Shortly after this, Cameron shows up with Petro to demonstrate his progress and help Blaine eat his words. He then manufactures an excuse to leave, suggesting coyly that Dr. Blaine gives the final injection in 15 minutes, unless, that is, he's some sort of an ignorant twat. And then he leaves to meet Dr. Fitzgerald, inquiring if he'd be interested in checking out his results as well. Meanwhile, Blaine administers the serum and loses himself in his book. This allows the monster Petro to do a little wolfy shuffle over his way and rip him to shreds. The attack is heard by Fitzgerald, now Cameron's alibi, and Cameron steps in to swipe some evidence before pulling the old fake heart attack bit and slipping back out. Tom uses his press credentials to get in and finds an address connecting these events to the grisly murder in the swamp. Tom shows up surprised to find the doctor and his girl at the address, having not yet received any correspondence from her. Dr. Cameron makes it known that his presence is unwelcome, despite the way it invigorates his daughter's blooming sexuality. So Tom leaves, but quickly loses the trail, wandering the swamp and eventually ending up at the site of the murder, where he spends the night. Back at the lab, Petro returns after spontaneously transforming, and Cameron intends to teach him some manners about doing so without his authorization. As we all know, manners are best taught with a gun, but he still needs him to murder Fitzgerald, so he forgoes this lesson for now. The next morning, we learn of another murder, and Granny starts crying werewolf, which prompts Tom to start connecting some dots. He tries to convince Lenora to leave this place, but the doctor assuages his suspicions by completely changing his demeanor, now acting politely and inviting Tom to a future scientific demo, which is all he really wanted to hear. Fitzy arrives that evening, and Cameron explains his accomplishments in a totally sane manner, but he's unable to convince him of his good work. So when he goes back to town, Cameron sends his man back as well to accompany him. Petro begins going through his changes, and since animals don't understand automotive safety at all, he aggressively distracts the driver. The men come upon them and drag the body back to the doctor's house, where they wonder what information may be revealed when he regains consciousness. To prevent this from happening, Cameron hangs back so he can ensure Fitzy never wakes up. The physician arrives and pronounces him dead, so now they have to spend the night in a storm with a creepy dead body. While they tend to that, Lenora breaks into the lab for some snooping. She flips the switch, finding Petro in the antechamber, and Tom chairs him in the face. Then a lightning strike sets the place on fire. Petro finds his way upstairs, where Dr. Cameron wakes from his nap, only to be put into a state of eternal slumber. Tom and Lenora then escape as the house burns to the ground, taking all of its secrets with it. If you've come along for the ride so far, again, I thank you, but it's not over yet. I'm done with the box set for now, but want to finish the month out strong with a string of high-octane presentations, so check back all next week. At this point, it's really hard to evaluate this movie. There have been so many transformations, secret labs, and vengeful doctors that I can't separate them out in my mind. The Mad Monster is goofy fun, and maybe worth a watch if you like that sort of thing, and likely definitely worth seeking out the riff tracks for if you like that sort of thing. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.